Everybody, welcome again. It's a Thursday. We are back with the conversation, outspoken and opinionated. Of course, I am the host, Edwin J. Maya. Today, I'm going by Edwin J. So I just want you guys to know I try to cut it down because I realized, the name kind of long. So we're going to do with Edwin J today. But man, I will tell you guys, she's trying to be, she's trying to be all spiffy and stuff with me and all this stuff. But guys, it's been 2 seasons. I want you guys to know she is my silent supporter. She watched mostly probably all the shows. I'm giving little pointers here and there, and it's my friend. I think she's an amazing person. You guys will enjoy her. The wealth of knowledge is it's crazy. And so I want you guys to get ready because I'm going to invite Ms.Asatu Shannon, and she's going to join us and tell us exactly what it is to invest in Africa and basically the economics factors around investing in Africa. So, hey, welcome, Asatu. This is the conversation, and you're alive.
Watch this, gon' tear it up.
Hey,
I am healthy, I am rich, I am that bitch. I am go get that bag, and I am not gonna take your shit. I am protected, well respected. I'm a queen, I'm a dream. I do what I wanna do, and I'm who I wanna be, cause I am me. Bitch, that's why.
I know you don't have the copyrights to this song, so I'm going to cut it short.
This was not part of this, people. I just want y'all to know, okay? So just putting that disclaimer out. But Asatu, I want to say thank you for honoring this invitation. Thank you for being here. Oh, Lord, my head.
Oh, goodness.
I know. All in my face. But thank you. This is what happens when it's a live show. Stuff happens. But thank you for being here. This is The Conversation. We appreciate you. We say thank you for coming on our platform and just helping us to reach people around the world who really don't understand what it is to invest in Africa and all that good stuff. So, hey, can you just tell the people who you are and what you do?
First of all, before we get into the introduction, my friend EJ, I want you to appreciate me. I want you to appreciate this outfit, okay? Let's get into it real quick. Listen, when an African woman shows up with her shoulder out, okay, so you know what that means. That means that I mean business. Okay, I'm giving you my single vibe, businesswoman vibes. Please. Okay.
So this is going to be the show because the lady is rolling in with the arms and shoulders. She got them lips beat. She got that blue and silver rolling. Look at that. Just even look at the painting behind her. It's all about royalty. It's all about Black excellence. It's all about boss chicks. It's all about women making a mark on the world. I'm so excited to have you, and I hope my introduction was as grand as you anticipated.
I'm actually shyer than people think, believe it or not. So I've been to avoid this, but I just want to give you your flowers before we even get started. EJ, you are doing your best and you are doing a good job. The production value is really applaudable. You've been so professional leading up to this with the reminders and the audio check and the video check and requesting a higher resolution picture for me. So bravo to you. I'm glad that you're giving Africa and random people around the world some view and some insight on what it is to do this kind of stuff and giving people a platform. So thank you for inviting me to this illustrious platform. I am honored and flattered, and let's get this party started.
Okay, so Ms.Asatu Shannon, I say she's the CEO, the boss chick, the entrepreneur guru. Just tell the people, what you do, outside of letting your shoulders out and letting the hair go. What else do you do?
So I have a background in finance. I've always worked in finance from the beginning of my career. I started with a family office doing private placements, which basically means that you have very wealthy people who have accumulated a lot of capital, and they hire a team to make sort of bilateral investments in opportunities. So they don't go through brokers, they don't use investment banks, and they just privately place large sums of money into deals. So I started my career doing that. And we invested in frontier oil and gas companies. Frontier oil and gas companies are basically like small oil and gas companies before they become super majors, like the ones we all hear about, like, Exxon, Chevron, etc. So that's how I kind of cut my teeth in the business. And I made a name for myself. I started my career in London, and I got headhunted to join a hedge fund as their VP equity analyst on their inaugural Africa desk. So this firm had a track record of investing in public markets, which basically is a stock exchange around the world, primarily in the UK. And, you know, Africa was booming back then. I won't tell you the year because it'll date me. Actually, it doesn't even matter because it's okay to get old. This is back in 2008.
Okay.
So I started working for this firm as their VP. I was, you know, a young, you know, little something in London running the streets, and they were like, this girl is something. So I got headhunted. I got poached from my old firm to join them, but I also joined them, for those who are familiar with the markets, in September 2008. This was the beginning of the financial crisis that kind of kicked off a lot of things. The mortgage crisis in the US that spun off and snowballed into basically a global financial crisis. I was at like the eye of the storm because I worked for a firm that basically invested in stock markets. And so our investors started to do redemptions and whatnot. But what was cool was that I already had an offer to join a startup private equity firm in Sierra Leone, and I had been sitting on it for like a year because sometimes being in the West is juicy. But when everything started to, you know, go left, right, and center, I was like, but God is good. He just be knowing. So I just took the opportunity and moved to Sierra Leone, where I worked for a startup private equity firm that was funded by like development finance institutions, high net worth individuals, other private equity firms in the UK. And I stayed there for 3 years, which was, you know, I went there not having any family. I had never been to Sierra Leone, but I am a risk taker with most things. So I thought, listen, you know, what better time than now to, you know, give it a go. All self-respecting Africans, especially us who have grown up in Africa, want to do something in Africa at some point. So that was sort of my rationale. This is my opportunity to give it a try. So I did it for 3 years and it was great. We were sector agnostic, invested in everything except for the mining industry. So we did mobile payments when mobile payments was just kind of starting at that point, manufacturing in an ice company, which doesn't sound that sexy, but it actually was very smart because in post-conflict countries where you have erratic power supply, people can't keep their goods, you know, cold and preserve it. It's actually a really big industry, especially in places that have long coastlines, because then you can serve the fishing industry. You know, we did a lot of different things. So I did that for 3 years and thought, you know, it's time for me to go and get my MBA. Let me just, you know, close this whole business profile, you know, make it full circle. Went to Chicago, stayed there for 2 years in what could best be described as a tundra, because it was frigid. Let me tell you, okay? I remember one day I was walking to like the metro stop to get the train to go to the airport. It was only like 5 minutes away from my apartment. I kid you not. I was probably 1 more minute away from getting frostbite. That's how cold Chicago gets. Anyway, did business school, went to Goldman in London. That was my only goal, to go to the top firm in London, because I wanted to be in the EMEA markets. EMEA is Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So if you want to do anything, most things in, if you want to do most things in business in Africa, being in Europe is actually the ideal place to go, just because of proximity. So you have a lot of firms that are Africa focused that will have a team, their EMEA team, based in Europe, instead of being based, for instance, in, you know, Tokyo or New York or whatever the case may be. So a lot of times when you see people going to Europe who maybe are educated or whatever, it's because they have that sort of focus. And so I did that for a couple of years, and for various different reasons, decided to leave and start my own thing, because again, I just thought it made sense. And so now I run Logis Groups. So Logis Groups is an investment and strategy advising firm, and we do it for in different ways. So I broker deals, I invest in opportunities, and I advise on business operations. So I can give you more specific, if you have specific questions, but broadly speaking, that's what I do.
Okay, great. For such a young lady, you've done a lot. As young as you are, you've done a lot. But I think I want to focus on your work in Africa. I want to focus on the things you've done investment-wise in Africa. And I know, you know, when we try to get you on the show, we also had to go, you know, through your little stuff. So I got my little spy And of course, we know that, you have your business in Liberia, Daily Goods. I told the person who helped me to do stuff, I tell her, I say, it's like a bodega. She's American. So when you try to let, she's like, well, I'm like,
it's a bodega.
It's a bodega.
That's exactly what it is.
It's like a corner store. It's like you go and get all your regular stuff from there. But you mentioned some of it, but I really want to know, can you already told us who you are, what you do, but investing in Africa, how has it been for you?
I mean, that's a very big question because I've been doing it for a long time in companies. I've been doing it for myself for several years. So it really depends on what you're trying to get at. I mean, I can tell you about what it's been like as a young Black African woman without a brand trying to broker deals with established institutions. I can tell you what that's been about. I can tell you what it's been like working in a male-dominated industry. I don't want to, beat a dead horse. You hear about these things all the time, but it's real, like what you get questioned about, the resistance, the egos. There's a lot of things. I've had lots of different experiences on sort of like an interpersonal level as an independent I guess service provider in the industry. And then we can talk about the economics of it. I want to clarify though that I don't consider Daily Goods is an investment, by the way, that I did with my sister.
Okay.
But it's not it's the thing that people hear about because we post about it on Instagram, on social media, etc. And it's a brick and mortar place that you can see. You can't see what I'm doing when I'm like, having negotiations with like the World Bank, right? But you can see this thing. But I don't consider it sort of like a key investment of mine. Okay. It's definitely in the portfolio. And if I were a big institution, it would be in the foundation part of the institution. And the reason we decided to do it is because, number one, we saw an opportunity. We saw a gap in the market. There's a new sort of suburb outside of the city in Liberia getting a lot of attention. A lot of people want to move out there, but there were no goods and services provided in sort of a reliable, professional, modern way. If you drove, it's called Marshall, you drive out to Marshall just to get something as simple as a cold drink was difficult, and so my family lives out in Marshall now. My parents live out, and so for me, it was a no-brainer to just have that facility. Some of the simplest things are the best business. So it came out of necessity. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I wanted to create employment. People talk about how they're helping the trees and how they're doing this and how they're doing that, but I do not subscribe to development work as it is commonly defined. Because the reality is that if it was effective, they would become less and less necessary. And you can imagine that institutions, we won't be calling any names here, but development institutions are in no way aspiring to phase out their businesses. And so just from that logic alone, it makes me dubious about their true intentions about alleviating poverty and increasing individual wealth. I am a capitalist. Okay, so I'm all about giving people the opportunity to do their own thing, right? Even if I'm paying you a little amount of money, it's money that you would not have previously had, or it's money I would have taken out of my pocket and unsustainably tried to support you. That doesn't motivate you, doesn't teach you anything. So that really is the premise behind Daily Goods, to create jobs outside of the city for people who I otherwise probably would have been supporting. And to enable them to have access to sort of, modern things so that their mentality about business and supporting themselves can evolve. So Daily Goods, for instance, is off the grid. We're not on public supply of electricity. And by the way, even if we were in Liberia, it would be erratic, right? So we have, a solar system that supports the business, which needs to be monitored. So these are people who, may have never interacted with this or have not interacted with it in the past. That's a fact, I can tell you. Now have to manage a pretty intricate AC solar system, with a timer and all that kind of stuff. And I take pride in that. We have a Wi-Fi system that powers our back office POS system, the point of sales. It manages our inventory. And that's something that, nobody else in the area does, so they're learning sort of, business skills, math skills. They're playing around with tech stuff. They understand the value of renewable energy. So that's really like the background on Daily Goods. Why I decided to do it is because it was a need. Why in Liberia? Because I am Liberian. Why in Sierra Leone? Because I used to live in Sierra Leone.
Yes, answering all my question, y'all, people. She got my cheat sheet.
Listen, you gotta stay ready so you don't have to get ready, okay? I don't want any curveballs I have to dodge, so let me just get to it.
She is giving me everything I want, but I like to, I just want to create a scenario. I know for me, being Liberian, coming to America, having an opportunity to go into college and all that great stuff. You go back after a long time for your first visit and you see all these great opportunities. Oh, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to do the other. But I think for me, it never went into fruition. I never received anything back. I did invest in certain things, but I never received anything back. And I think why I even had this conversation, why I'm having this conversation with you, is I have a lot of friends and I know a lot of people who've gone through the same thing. They go to Liberia and somebody said, oh, you can just go to the store, buy some clothes, get it to Liberia and sell it and make some money. And at the end of the day, you don't get any return on your investment because there are 500 people that are selling clothes. There are 500 people that are selling this. So what I'm saying all of this to ask you, to bring you in and to understand, like, how did you, I know you said it was out of need, but how do people target the market for them to know exactly what can they invest in, especially when it comes to like Africa, countries like Liberia, Sierra Leone, is right after war and all this kind of stuff?
I mean, I think the simple answer is we have this, right, in Liberia, you got to cut your shoe to your shoe size, right? Mm-hmm. Like, not everybody, like, I'm not in education, for example, and there are people in education. So I know some people, for instance, who have written fantastic books. I know some people who, a great friend of mine has an amazing initiative. Check this out. It's Teach for Liberia. It's a franchise of Teach for America. He's investing in the minds of Liberian people, which is applaudable, necessary, and marvelous all in one. That's his area, right? I just got back to Liberia 2 weeks ago, and there's a new business, in town. It's like a kind of waterfront lounge situation. This man had the capital to do a fairly large capital-intensive investment that's in the entertainment sector. So the short answer is fill your space. What do you know? I know you're in healthcare, so why would you come and sell t-shirts? You're in healthcare, why would you come here and come to Marshall and open a bodega? Mm-hmm. That's not something that you're neither an expert in it, nor are you passionate about it. So any little wave that comes and shakes the boat, you're going to pack up and say, you know what, I don't even have to be doing this. Let me just go back to my comfortable house in Maryland. Yeah, that's the short answer. Do what you're good at, do what you like doing. And it's cliche, but it's real. I like the idea of paying people. Daily Goods has been open we're in our 4th year. Never missed a salary payment. We've expanded to Sierra Leone. We've tried different things that have either succeeded or failed, but everyone's invested and we're learning. And I'll tell you what, there are both private and public sector businesses right now that cannot say the same. So however small or insignificant you think Daily Goods may be, or whatever you're interested in doing may be, you can have your own success story however you define it.
So answer the question. As a woman in the financial industry, were there times where you thought that you were not taken serious because it's
yes. What kind of question is that? Yes. Okay. Every second. Perfect example. I'm not even going to have to go that far into the past because that's how frequently it happens. And this is not about me being sensitive. And by the way, people who say I'm sensitive should develop emotional intelligence because I'm not a foolish woman. But most recently, actually, I founded and I operate largest groups. And one of the things that we do, our verticals, is investment advisory. So right now I have a live deal. It's super interesting. It's basically edible carbon dioxide. It sounds kind of boring, but edible carbon dioxide, by the way, is the bubbles that you find in Prosecco, in champagne, in all your carbonated beverages. So it's actually a very necessary feedstock for some of the biggest companies that you can imagine. And my clients want to start this thing in their home country. And so I've been talking to people in my investor universe, and by people I mean institutions. And now there's an older Black American man who works for me, right? So he's kind of, helping me get out there and, use his network and, he's along me in the process, but it's under the auspices of logist groups. Okay. So I'm the boss. So this guy connected me to a large multilateral organization. And we've been going back and forth on email and whatnot. We've had several calls and I've been pitching the concept. And after one of our calls, I had to follow up, with some information. And so I sent the information. I was like, let me know when you have the opportunity to review these documents. I'm happy to have a follow-up call, et cetera, et cetera. Radio silence, no response. No, okay, thanks for this, we'll get back to you. No, nothing. I said, okay, no problem. Things happen. Days went by, weeks went by. So the guy now who works for me hits me up on WhatsApp and says, hey, Asatu, you should follow up on this thing. I didn't like the idea that he was telling me this, but I said, okay, it's fine. It makes sense. You cannot like something, but if it makes sense, you got to keep it moving. So I sent a follow-up email, radio silence. So now I'm like, what's going on with these people that you sent me to? How serious are they and how interested are they, And he said, okay, this is kind of weird. I'm really sorry about this. He sends an email. I kid you not, within less than a few hours, by the end of the day, people were like, oh, hi, Mr. So-and-so. Thanks for getting back to us. Sorry for the delay. And basically gave us the response that we're looking for. Why then could you not do the same when I had emailed you last week? And I emailed you back 2 weeks ago. And by the way, in the first call, this man introduced me as the person who's pitching this thing. I've been leading these discussions. I've been carrying on my shoulders. Why? So I don't know. Could it have been an oversight? Maybe. Can I be maybe reading too much into it? Maybe. But in this day and age, who misses an email? That happens all the time in various different forms. They thought I was his analyst and they were waiting for him to get involved and so on and so forth. Since then, it's been regulated. But yes, I do find people don't take me seriously. And that's been the biggest problem. I will say it's been very difficult at times.
And so with that being said, how have you been able to turn that experience or that scenario for it to work for you?
I think that's a good question. I'm in the process of doing that right now, right? It's a constant evolution. One of the things that I've decided to do is that I need to put myself out there a little bit more. In finance, it's not unusual for people to kind of try to ride under the radar. The firm that I used to work for didn't even have its name on its building, because they're like, why, who cares what passerbys think about, the people who we're cutting the checks from or who writing us the checks, they know who. So I kind of adopted that. And I think that doesn't work when you're an individual and when you're trying to build your brand. So I've recently, built a website and
No. Okay, guys, we know this is live, so this is what happens when you're just having some of the technical difficulties, but I know she's going to be back soon. So let's just, yep, there you are.
Back.
Yep.
Sorry.
Oh, no problem. It's live. That's what happens. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so I think all I was saying was that I'm just trying to strengthen my brand equity by doing some things that, a lot of people in the tech world probably already know. Like I've built my website, so that gives it more authenticity. And just, having this guy on board, working alongside me, as much as you may hate it, partnerships work, So I think those two things right now are what I'm doing. And listen, if you have some suggestions or if your listeners have some suggestions, please feel free to chime in. Because listen, I'm not going to solve the problem, right? I'm not the first person. I won't be the last person to go through this.
Exactly. So with Africa, what are the top 3 industries currently trending upward in Africa?
Tech anything.
And that question came from Glenn Okoro.
Tech anything, trust me. Ag tech, edu tech, health tech anything is popping right now. Okay, and that's obvious. Repeating the obvious thing, but it's true. In sort of maybe conventional, traditional industries, agriculture is always interesting. because you can, I saw a graph the other day and where it was like GDP per capita versus like poverty or something was on the y-axis. But of the different industries there, agriculture had the steepest slope, which basically means that it's very elastic. So for every sort of progress you make, however you define it in agriculture, you lift most amount of people out of poverty. So a lot of sort of impact investment firms love agriculture. And on that note, there's a lot of traditional investment firms that are now developing or launching and promoting their impact investment teams. So anything impact related that also gives dividends and therefore has sort of like double bottom line or triple bottom line results, which means that it's not just financially, successful, but it also helps people, etc. Investors love. So that was 2 industries, right?
Yeah.
And I think the third industry definitely is logistics. Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba, said it himself when he came to Africa. I think it was 2 years ago, right before COVID. And he said the person who figures out logistics, moving goods and services around Africa, is going to be like Mo Ibrahim, the guy who brought cell phones to Africa.
So looking at, the continent of Africa, multiple countries, there are people, you have West, South, East, all that good stuff. What are the specific, I would say, industries that people should target? For example, let's say when you go into West Africa, what are the industries you should tackle when you go into East Africa, North Africa, stuff like that? Do you have any idea or any pointers how people can get that information so they can be able to, invest wisely?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. I like how you formulated it by separating different regions because Africa is not homogenous, right? So country has different things trending. It's hard to say because we would have to go through all 50 plus countries and say specifically X, Y, Z, and I don't have that knowledge. But I way for people who, first of all, if you're interested in Africa, right? And then figure out if your skill set is applicable in the place that you're visiting. And if it's not, don't force it. There's lots of countries and lots of people and lots of places, huge base, over 300 million consumers in Africa. You don't have to force it. You can, find something else in a different place. But I think again, the short answer is that, Africa needs everything. Everywhere needs everything. So it's not one thing versus the other. It's what are you good at? What will be your unique selling points, right? And where do you have the best networks? Because you have to know people or you have to know people who can to know more people to be able to break barriers, right? To get through government red tape, to get customers to like you, to do all those different things. People go when they buy things if they know someone or if they like the person or the person's affiliated with something they like, and there's no other way to get that sort of local knowledge than to have a local representative and visit yourself.
Okay, so just from my experience, I think I'm going back to Liberia frequently that I have done. I realized that there are a lot of little drinking spots. I don't have the entertainment centers. And I looked and what I see is like for every 5 houses, there is an entertainment center. And so I don't know, you being in, you having knowledge when it comes to investing or when it comes to starting businesses in Liberia or in African countries. What are the startup process for these things? How does this happen? Because I think for me, it's just like, okay, it's like you get up tomorrow morning at 5, just recreate it. Is there any
process? I mean, first of all, Papa, the people in less busy in Liberia. So, so that, I mean, is a normal something that you have people just wanting to drink their worries away. So that doesn't, that's not surprising. How and why, or well, the why, but how are they doing this? You can put together a couple of dollars and put a plastic table with some white chairs around. You get a Tiger generator, you put $5 fuel in it, and you play some music and people will come and drink. It's not difficult to do. It can be a nuisance if the place is right across from your house, but it's not difficult to do, and that's why it's so prolific. But if you want to do it the right way, you have to go to, you have to register your business. If you are Liberian, it's affordable. And if you're a foreigner wanting to invest in Liberia, it's way more expensive, but it's not as expensive as in other countries. And by the way, your business should be able to make enough to cover that cost over time anyway. You just register your business, you find a location, you lease the place, or you build the land that you own, and you get it moving. So if your question is why are there so many drinking spots, that less business. If your question is how do you start a drinking spot, you find a location, you register your business, and you pitch a tent.
Good. Long-term versus short-term investing. What's your opinion?
Long.
Okay.
Life is not free. So why would you do anything short-term? Life is not free. I mean, okay, so what is short-term investing? Short-term investing is maybe day trading.
Yeah.
And that's cool. There's some people who can do that and, make a lot of money from it. But, when we think about investing, it's associated with financial success. And very seldom do you find people really attaining financial success in a short time if it's not stolen. So, I mean, I think just from the data that we have available to us, it's long-term investing is the way to go. And that's why if you're going to invest in something and want to reap the benefits over time, it should be something that you can invest in and be passionate about and care about over time. Of course, circumstances change. So that's why also it's important to think about whatever you invest in, are there exit opportunities? So when, for instance, in sort of the investment advisory world, you have to put together teasers to get people interested in the opportunity. And then you have these things called information memorandums, IMs, or investment memorandums rather. And a key section in the IM is the exit strategy, because an investor wants to say, okay, fine, I'm going to give you this $8 million that you're asking for, but how do I get my money back? And when do I get it back? Because number one, they have to calculate their returns, but then, it's not charity, it's not a church. It's money that they want to get back plus some on top. So you have to explore exit opportunities, right? So when you think about long-term investing, that provides you at least a runway to be able to grow the business, create value, to make it interesting for the next guy who's going to come and buy your share or whatever you've created. And that doesn't happen overnight. You're going to, there's this thing in finance, it's like garbage in, garbage out. Like when you build these models that tell you that you're going to be super successful, it's only telling you what you're telling it. If I put in that my price is going to be high, my costs are going to be low, you're going to see a very cushiony, attractive profit margin, right? But that's what I put in. Reality can be very different. So you need time to kind of smooth out all the bumps over time to get to where you need to get to show some valuable asset.
Okay, so you being a business owner, having a business in 2 different countries, how have you experienced, have there been any challenges experiencing managing your business in multiple locations?
Yes.
And how have you been able to
Of course, Edwin, EJ, it's not easy. It's not easy. We look at people and we're like, oh, this person's doing this, but we're sweating. First of all, human capital. The numbers are never right, no matter how many times we go over it. So you just have to take that L and say, okay, I'm putting aside, I'm earmarking 15% for losses, or if the number is off by like 10% every day, it's okay. Okay. Sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes it's not intentional, So that's a huge issue. And that's something I had to kind of adopt over time because I'm pretty pedantic and meticulous about things getting done. And so, that's going to happen. And I think, by the way, that'll happen anywhere in the world. Right. I think the second thing is just like in Liberia, you have everything's the other thing I wanted to do with Daily Goods was to have a shop where Liberian businesses, suppliers, and whatnot could easily get access to valuable shelf space. Because right now, if they go into, like the bigger supermarkets, they're on the bottom, they're hidden behind some other goods because other companies, in other places in the world with access to, more support can achieve economies of scale and therefore have lower prices, to sell in the market. And a lot of Liberian businesses don't have that. Their prices are high, so they're just not competitive a lot of times on the shelves. So I wanted to do that. So about 25% of our stock are Liberian made. And so that's relatively easy to get, you would think. But then you have problems with people delivering. You have traffic. They will tell you that, oh, the delivery guy stole the money last week, so they fired him. So they're waiting to hire someone new, so they cannot supply you this week. Then you end up looking like a fool because people are like, oh, I came to buy so-and-so and you don't have it. So there's supply chain issues, and that's where the logistics comes in. Um, for the other items that are imported where I buy from a wholesaler in Liberia and then resell at the shop, you have problems where if, for instance, the national port of Liberia at Freeport, for instance, if they don't dredge the port, which means they don't clean it out, they don't take out the sand so that large ships can dock, then the wholesalers will not get their goods, right? And then sometimes if you have that issue, they might incur costs while it's in storage or while the ship is still out there. So they pass on that cost to me, So now I have volatile prices and my customers are like, why are you messing with us? You know what I mean? And I have to be like, it's not me, Then you have a place like Liberia that runs 2 currencies. Yeah. So I actually have a little board that says the daily currency and even though you have 2 currencies, you can only have 1 price, right? So you have to figure out, okay, well, sometimes I have to go back and say, well, now the price is, I have to change the prices, of the product because this is what I bought it at. And now this is what the exchange rate is. And if I accept it at the old exchange rate, I will not have enough money to then go repurchase to restock. So I have foreign exchange issues. I have human capital issues. I have supply chain issues. And then, like I said, we're not on the national grid. So if it's rainy season, which by the way is 6 months during the year, and it already started now, it was raining earlier. That's why I have my earphones here in case you couldn't hear me. Then my solar system is not reliable. So then we don't have cold drinks reliably. I mean, it's just everything can be a problem at any time.
But you're still pushing, and I want to know, where is that zeal coming from? You gotta take a drink for that?
Side note, let's take a little commercial break, a little endorsement break, okay? I'm not being endorsed by this.
Let them know. Let them know.
If you're in Liberia and you like a little bubbly, but you don't want to spend it on Moet, Dom Perignon, Veuve Clicquot, you can skip over from France, take a little trip to Italy, get you some Prosecco by, I think this is the correct pronunciation is Bacio della Luna, okay? And if you want to learn more about it, you can hit up the Instagram page, Liberia Loves Prosecco. It's delicious.
Liberia Love Prosecco.
Loves Prosecco on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay.
Why am I still doing it? Yes. Well, to be honest with you, there's an emotional element to business. When you hire people, you kind of take on their troubles. Okay. If I close down Daily Goods, 10 people, 10 individual people are going to be directly unemployed as a result of that decision. 10 people equals 10 households, which, as you know, in Africa, because we're a communal society or community-based society, that means it's 10 people times at least 10 people that are depending on them. So to be honest with you, I want to fire people right now. There's some people who are not doing what they're supposed to do. I can't lie to you. Okay. Right now, while coming here, I was planning on firing people. But then I look at it for law, I say, hey, God, how can I fire this woman? Because because of where we live, half of my staff in an apartment building that we own right next to the business. Because then another issue, human capital in terms of competency, and then human capital in terms of their reliability. Infrastructure in Liberia is so horrific that if people don't live right next to their business, every day they're going to be late. They're not going to get transportation. They're going to have this issue and that issue. They're going to have to leave at a certain time. But if they live right next door, at least that's one little thing that I can mitigate, But that means that it's even harder to fire them, because not only are you firing them and you can just turn your back and let them go, but you're kicking them out of your house. Maybe the person came with their daughter. Like, who wants that kind of bad luck and karma on leave on their...
That's a lot of pressure.
Bro, it's not easy. So that's one of the things. There's like an emotional element to it. But also it's like, what business is easy? As long as Daily Goods is sustainable. In any business I'm involved in, by the way. Because there's lots of things. I'm like the interim COO of a streaming website that focuses on animated content based out of New York, for instance. Every day they piss me off. You understand? But then you're like, what if this thing becomes Netflix and I'm going to be like the guy at Apple before Apple became Apple? You know what I'm saying? So It's a lot of stuff going on. It's a lot. But, you just going because there's people who are counting on you. It's sustainable. So I don't put any additional money into it. And when I do it as a 0 coupon loan. So I want them to feel it's a business, And as long as it can continue to at least do that, that's okay by me.
Well, I want to turn it a little bit. We got a few minutes, but I really want to talk about portfolio diversification, because I think a lot of times, we who aren't as savvy when it comes to finances, when it comes to investing, economics, we just stick to what we know. So when people start investing, you heard about Netflix, you know about Apple. Is it things that that's where you go? So can you just give us just some knowledge on when it comes to portfolio diversification?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's self-explanatory, right? Like, I think that there's different ways to think about it. So if you're investing in something as your core business, I you have to be focused on it. So in that sense, to really put a lot of your energy into it, so you can't diversify and kind of split your attention in that sense.
Correct.
I think when we talk about portfolio diversification, most of the time we're talking about sort of your investment portfolio in the public market. So, when you're investing in stocks and whatnot, you want to maybe have some bonds in there alongside the equity.
Okay.
And then with the equity investments you don't want to be overly concentrated in one industry. So you want to have some tech exposure, maybe to FANG, that's, Facebook, Apple, whatever. And then you maybe want to also have some financial services companies in there. So, like the big banks. You want to have some manufacturing stuff. You want to have some companies that pay dividends. So that's really what they're talking about in terms of diversification. And the whole concept behind it is pretty, straightforward. You want to hedge your bets because every industry cannot collapse at the same time. Very seldom does that happen, right? Even during the global financial crisis, there were people who were invested in sort of VIX industries, which is like, it's like the volatility index. So it's counter to basically what everything does. So it's basically betting that things will collapse. So if you are investing across everything, including VIX, for instance, then if there is a global financial crisis and things collapse, then VIX is going to take off and you're still going to be okay. So diversification is about balancing your portfolio and having, eggs in different baskets. But it's not about sort of like direct investments, I mean, if you are a serial investor, someone who made a lot of money one day and you have billions sitting down, yeah, of course. Like if you're like a Buffett or Elon Musk or some of these basketball players, for instance, Shaq is a really great investor. Nas is a great investor. Like these guys are investing in various different things and not just saying, okay, I want my money and put it just in Google. That's what diversification is about. So if you're able to do that, kudos to you. And you should do it.
Okay, so there is, I just want to, I don't know if we can talk about this, but there is, I think, a trend that I've seen recently on Facebook where I see a lot of people doing this, trying to bring this mortgage effect to Liberia or the African countries. And so you have this organization that is building and they're like, oh, build with us and hustle call this, but every month you can pay this. And with my American knowledge, and someone who has been able to acquire property in America and pay mortgage, I don't understand it. When I read it, I really don't understand it because I don't see the connection to the financial institution. I see me just connecting with an organization. And so I don't know if that's something that you have looked into, that you can speak on and give us advice, because I saw a couple of people commenting and asking for information, and I really don't get it.
Listen, I haven't heard about it, so I don't know the specifics, but I'm always prepared to make a comment about something. Listen, I think mortgages are important. Debt is okay, all right? The American economy is based on leverage, okay? It allows you to get things today that you cannot afford today and pay it out over time. That's okay, right? So broadly speaking, mortgage in Liberia, okay. But what makes mortgage work? Okay, what makes loans work? Credibility, credit worthiness. How do we determine credibility and credit worthiness? It's on your spending patterns. In the US, that is consolidated into one number, your credit score, right? We don't have a credit score in Liberia. We don't have a credit bureau in Liberia. So how do you know that this person who's coming with sweet talk about taking your money and paying it back will indeed pay you back, right? So those are the kind of things that they have to kind of flesh out and make clear, because you can start this mortgage thing today and you can go bust tomorrow because you'll give out all your money for people to take out mortgages, and what will you be able to do? The only thing you confiscate the property, you know, and then resell. And then it's just like you're just redoing the same thing over and over again. So they have to figure out a way to have maybe access to salary payments directly from the employer. Maybe they can use, I don't know what information's out there, but as far as I know, we don't have a credit bureau in Liberia today that is robust enough to provide enough information for a mortgage entity to launch today. But it is a very, very good and novel idea because it is absurd that right now in Liberia, if you want to build a home, your only option is to acquire cash by hook or by crook to go and build from the ground up. That's not fair. You know how many people that precludes? You know how many people in society are not able to do that? And do you also know the psychological implications of doing that? You know, there are people who just kind of have to accept that they're never going to be able to do this. And there are people who, the minute they have the opportunity to have access to cash, of course, they're going to try to steal it because the society has forced them to do crooked things to get the capital to just have a normal life, to have a normal home, to have a nice place to sleep. Why? So there should be a mortgage industry, but I don't know how they're going to pull that off right now.
And with that being said, for me, I was just looking at the banks, looking in Liberia. I don't think I'm comfortable enough to deal with the bank. And then what happens when the bank, I don't know.
Goes bust?
Yeah.
Well, from your perspective, so it's about the perspective, right? It's the bank that should be wary of you when it comes to mortgages, not the person who's taking out the loan. Because the reason is that if you're going to the bank for a mortgage, they're going to give you the money. Now they have to get their money back. So you do not have any risk. It's the bank that has that's holding the risk because they have to get their money back with their interest on top.
I think
so. If you want to do this, if you can get the money, listen, holler at me because I would, you know, you have to use other people's money to do investments. So if you're able to get some kind of mortgage here in Liberia, please let me know how you do this so me you can get our mortgage.
I saw it and I just blocked that whole thing. I was like, this just looked like a whole scam.
Unblock it. Send me the link. Let me look at it.
It looked like a whole scam to me. I was so scared. But before we can get off, I just want to talk about the risk tolerance. I think for me, I brought that up because I know that's an issue for me. That's why I haven't been able to probably, you know, get into businesses and venture into certain things because my risk tolerance is really, really low. Okay. Like I am so scared because I feel it's like, you know, I see a lot of, you know, it's like you don't want to get burned. I think I say this because I think for us, you know, I will speak for myself, who has been in a certain society where you work, like I said, you work hard for your money. And so when you are trying to like go back home or I would say go back home because go back to Liberia and invest, there are a lot of other stipulations, a lot of other things that involve that basically scare you. I'm like, oh my God, like, okay, what might happen? The government might change. And when the government change, this person might change and this might change. And so I can deal with this. And, you know, it's a lot that goes on. And so for you guys who do it, I just want to know, like, how can someone like me really, really help themselves to elevate the tolerance of my risk?
You know what? I'm glad that you're first of all, kudos to you on doing your research because I feel like this is sort of like business 101. So that's good. No, listen, I mean, risk profile is personal, you know? Like, I don't know what dependents you have. I don't know who you're taking care of. I don't know what plans you have. You know, how much you're paying for school, how much of it are you paying yourself? Like, there's a lot of things, and so that's individual. So to say, how can I reduce my risk profile? I mean, it's really about what you're committed to currently, how much disposable income you have, and what % of that disposable income are you okay to lose if you were to lose it. So if it's zero, hun. Like there's nothing.
Zero.
Then listen, forget about business and you doing podcast business. Forget about investing in Liberia and just do your podcast because if you put money to anything, and it's not just Liberia or Sierra Leone or whatever, if you put your money in the stock markets, it may not go up.
I can't do it.
So, my dear, the only thing I can do for you, I'm not being paid by these people. They don't owe me anything. But there are online banks that have relatively higher interest rates. It's very low, but it's still higher than high street banks. Put your money there. Maybe buy a CD, you know. and lock it up for 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, and just be happy like that. And it's okay, by the way. Not everybody needs to be doing everything.
And I like that you said that, because I think a lot of people are pressured. Like now with the trend that's going on with these coin based or whatever that is. I don't even know, because that's not my area. But I see people talking about it on Facebook. They're doing this, they're doing that. I know a couple of friends who will send you text, send you a list of what you're supposed to invest in. And I'm like, look, I'll do this stuff. I put my money in the bank, and I got my little CD, and I got my little other savings that I can't touch, and I got my little son college fund, and I got some other little things going on that I'm doing that I'm okay with. It's fine for me. I can't
different strokes for different. That's it. Do what makes you happy. I mean, Coinbase is cryptocurrency. I can tell you what, Bitcoin was $60,000 last week. 2 days ago, I had a conversation with a friend who told me about this new platform, whatever. And so we're checking out prices, and it's $55,000 this week. So these are risks that you have to take. I mean, everyone has different risk tolerance, and you got to do what you have to do. You have a great job, you have a home, you have a family, and you are prioritizing them. So what? Is that since when did that become bad? It's kind of like these people now. It's like everybody wants to be like a social media entrepreneur or influencer. It's like they're supposed to work at the bank. Who's going to be the teller? Who's going to sweep the roads? Everybody do what you need to do. But I don't judge.
And it's funny you say that, because I know I say that I don't you can pay your bills, you're fine, you're able to obtain the things that you want or the things that you need, and you're great, you're living a good life, you're sustainable. I'm great for you, I'm happy for you. But I think a lot of us, and just before we leave, but I think we're from Africa, so we're going to talk a little bit about corruption. But I think that's why the part of the world that we're from is so corrupt, is because people are trying to, like we say in Liberia, put their hat where their hand can reach. We obtain all these things, and I will tell you what puzzled me when it comes to Liberia is people believe that in order for them to be rich, they have to work for the government. I don't understand that, because for me, I believe no, civil servants aren't supposed to be rich. You're working for the people. What are you going to get? But I realize that. So I don't understand that. Maybe you can help us.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's quite simple. I don't judge people, because the reality is that there's decisions that I have never been forced to make in my life because of the grace of God. My parents made good decisions on certain things. Their parents made good decisions on certain things. So I am privileged, and I recognize that. And in so doing, I have to acknowledge that had I not had the opportunities I had, I may have been making the same decisions to maybe be corrupt or whatever that other people are doing. So for one, it's a no judgment zone. That said, I agree with you that typically, if you are a civil servant, you are supposed to be serving your community and the public. And so you work for us. We pay our taxes, then you get your salary, and that's it, right? In Liberia, the idea of, graft and corruption is as old as time. And I'm sure that's the case in place. So it's something that people they grew up looking at and seeing as they grew up in Liberia. So it's almost the exception for people to think it's another way around. And I keep saying Liberia because we're talking about in the Liberia context, but listen, I almost offended, and I know we're talking about Liberia because we're both Liberian and this is, whatever, but first of all, corruption is a two-way street.
Oh.
For me to take a bribe, you have to be bribing me, right? Yes. So there's international companies that come here, and we always say, oh, the minister did this and this person did that, but he didn't clap his hands and make US dollars. Somebody offered him that US dollars. So let's judge both people. That's the first thing. The second thing is every year in the UK, you have MPs that are taken down because they're allowed to have one home as a private home and then another home as like a vacation home, but they have different sort of like cost or tax laws governing the ownership of them, and these people will kind of like um, uh, how you say it, like they will put different homes in different places and misallocate so that they can reduce their expense requirements, and this and that is corruption there also in the UK. The difference and the problem that we have in a place like Liberia is that when this MP steals in the UK, the tube continues to run, the roads continue to be paved, the lights continues to stay on, people can start their small businesses, and individuals can keep it moving. And there are systems, justice frameworks that will deal with that guy if there's a whistleblower. In this case, every dollar that is stolen in the government, you can literally see where it came from. There's a government official who's not mentioned. There's a rumor now that a government official was caught in France with $2 million cash. Okay? Cash. I won't get into the details of the things, cash, bro. I won't get into details of what happened after that. But I can tell you that $2 million is 2 miles that could have been paved on the Robertsfield Highway that's not currently being paved. That right now, when a truck breaks down because there's only 2 lanes, it causes accidents. I know people who have died on the Robertsfield Highway. Until today, in 2021, people are still stealing the money that could repair a road that would not only improve commerce and indirectly, ultimately provide more government revenues, okay, through taxes from those businesses, but it'll also save lives. That's the problem we have with corruption. Not that corruption is innate African or that corruption is so bad, because at the end of the day, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts, absolutely. And if I was in that situation, maybe I too will steal. But you know what I would do? I will not steal the whole 10 that comes in. If 10 comes in, I will not steal 10. Or if 10 comes in, I will not steal 12 and indebt the country. If 10 comes in, I will steal 1. Okay? And invest the other 9 so that I can steal another 1 again tomorrow.
When another thing comes.
That's the problem I have with these people. That's the problem I have.
Yeah, and I think it's because they don't understand the factor of it. Because it's like, if you go there the first time and you take everything, you're going to spoil away. So you can't.
Let me tell you something. EJ, let me tell you something. The reason why they do that is because we're in a country that has a very recent history. Well, it's not recent, 20 years now. We need to stop talking about this war. But we have this history of volatility and instability, right?
It will finish.
And they want to pass. But the issue that people have, EJ, is because I think, people are used to instability, right? So we're not long-term planners because we don't know if tomorrow something will pop off. So we've been educated directly and indirectly to take what we can today because tomorrow may not be okay. That's a problem. So a lot of things that actually need to change, I think, in Africa and around the world is to start to psychologically educate people, and how you say cure people from the PTSD of instability.
And I like what you said, because I think that's my goal. That's why I started this podcast. That's why we do what we do. It's because we feel that, our community, the Black community, African community, African American community, there are conversations that need to be held, and people don't have these conversations. You coming on here and giving us this knowledge, people pay for that. People pay for the knowledge that you've given us. For the people who watch and who will watch it, they will get something for free that people who have the privilege pay for. And so I think it's my goal, it's my plan that we can educate the masses, because I think when the person who won't have the opportunity, like me or you, to get on a plane or to go somewhere or to get the education, but if you can just tell them, like, you know what, ma, you got $20, go put $5 in the bank, keep that $5 for a rainy day, and use the other 15. And that, like when people are learning these little spending and how to save their money and what to do with it and the right things to invest in the right business. I know somebody who started a coal business, and that person got so much money, and I'm just like, from selling coal.
Let me tell you, I'm literally wearing, I was joking at the beginning, but I'm wearing this boo-boo as an homage to market women.
Yes.
The market women in this country are the ones who, outside of foreign investors, are carrying this economy on their shoulders. They're sending their children to school abroad. They're sending their foolish husbands to hospitals when they act naughty. Do you understand what I mean? These women have real money tied in their lapa under their boots.
If you are
You
type
understand?
market woman, lapa knows. You will
Thank
understand.
you. Okay.
You will understand. I
There's
had a friend
money to be made.
I went to high school with. Her mom sold roasted fish and roasted meat, and she sent her son to J.J. Roberts.
Okay.
And from there, he's in the United States, and his mom helped him with the help of course, financial aid and stuff like that. He went to college.
Yeah.
In the United States from selling fish. And like when you talk, I think you talked about earlier when you talk about agriculture and all that kind of stuff. And I think all those things, we can really see the importance of those things. Like it's not everybody can sit in an office. Not everybody can.
And not everybody should.
Not everybody can walk the street and be cute and get things free. Because we know that happened too. We're just gonna leave that part alone.
Okay.
Now, everybody, that can happen for everybody, but I think that everybody can take that step to say, you know what? I'm good at this. I can sew. I can do hair. I can do nails. I can talk. I like to talk. So I need to find a way that I can make money from talking. You can host little events where people can come there and do all these things. It will work out great. But we're at the end of the show.
Aww.
And it's been an amazing, amazing time. You were so great. You got me confused. I told you, see, I did my research. You see all my notes and everything. I had to know what I was doing. I'm like, they're going to mess me up over here. But you were great, and we want to say thank you from the Conversation family. You are part of this family, but from us, we say thank you for coming, sharing with us. We appreciate you. We know that, life is not all roses, but we will continue to pray for you as you go and into all the different things that you
I receive
do.
it.
That God will bless you. He will strengthen you. He will give
Amen.
you more energy to
Amen.
deal with the people that you have to deal with. And
Amen.
I just say thank you. Thank you for coming on here.
Thank you for having me. The time went by very fast. I guess you have time flies when you're having fun. I hope I was able to at least share some little information. I mean, an hour is actually not that long, and there's a lot to talk about. So I hope whatever I said was delivered in a way that somebody learned something or felt enlightened in some kind of way. Feel free to hit your girl up if you want more info. EJ, continue to be fabulous.
Thank you.
And I hope that we can get this show syndicated.
Yes.
So that we can start getting some real money. You gotta invest in Coinbase, bro.
I will talk to you about that off air. But this was a great show, everybody. This was The Conversation, Outspoken and Opinionated. My name is Edwin J. Maya. That was Ms.Asatu Shannon. We had a great time, and we said thank you all for being here. And we say you guys have a great Thursday because we're out and you're in.